What's up, boys? So we got the Palmetto State Armory Dagger here. Look at that crown barrel. It's freaking awesome for the price of this gun. I mean, I paid more than this barrel costs to get this done on one of my 1911s. So, pretty cool. It's a nice looking gun. We got the Swampfox Kingslayer right here. This is their budget optic. This thing only costs like 120 bucks. Like, this entire package right here only cost me for this like custom looking milling, and then the crown barrel and the friggin' optic and the sights forward of the optic, all of this stuff that you might find in a custom build. This whole thing cost me like 480 bucks, I think. Like, that's just craziness. So let's see how it shoots. I already got a couple rounds downrange, but let's see how I can do on target. I'm gonna do 10 rounds, and this is gonna be about different rounds of, like, I have the 90 grain Underwood ammo that's plus P, and it has like that screwdriver looking end tip to it, and then I got some Federal HST in there, and then I got some other 147 grain just ball rounds. So let's go for the right dead center, 10 rounds. Alright, there's your 10 rounds. Let's check it out. Alright, so as you can see, that was a pretty decent group. My first one went a little high, but other than that, they were all basically touching. Guys, gotta say, for a $300 gun, how can you beat that? Alright, so let's cut the shit on the PSA Dagger. You guys have all seen videos on this thing, read about it. Everyone's calling it a Glock clone. Is this actually a Glock clone? No, it's not. It's not even close to a Glock clone. This gun shares zero similarities between it and a Glock, except for the internal parts, which most people will never even come in contact with, see, have to deal with, unless this thing breaks. That is the only time that the internal parts are relevant when it comes to a gun, and most people cannot fix their gun by themselves anyway. So no, as far as people are concerned, this is not a Glock clone. What is it a clone of, though? Right here. This gun is a TX22 clone. Very clearly, this gun took severe inspiration from the TX22. It has the exact same grip ergonomics, exact same texturing, exact same texture pattern, exact same grip angle, the exact same trigger shoe profile. The trigger guards are the same aside from this slight bump right here. The slide profile is almost identical aside from some custom milling on this particular version. You can clearly see that this thing took inspiration from the TX22. And if you want to call it a clone of anything, you'd have to call it a 9mm version of the TX22, which is actually a fantastic thing, because if you look at my TX22 review, this is by far the best 22 pistol ever, and it is so amazing that I wished that Taurus would make this in 9mm. And I always said, if they made this gun in 9mm, I would buy it in a second. And boom, Palmetto State Armory basically just made a 9mm version of the TX22 with Glock internal parts. So I do not think it does this gun justice at all to call it a Glock clone, as it improved on the Glock design significantly with every sort of user interface that it has. As we have the PSA Dagger with the custom milled slide with the metal 1/3 co-witness front mounted sights. Then you have the Swampfox Kingslayer right here, And then you have a flush cut and crowned barrel that is actually very nicely flush cut. And you just get a really great package. My intent for this gun was to build like a super cheap gun and see how well it could perform. So this review is of the Swampfox in combination with the PSA Dagger, and I have to say that I'm thoroughly impressed, especially for the price. It's about 12 yards. Let's bring it in and see how we did. Not too bad. Looks like we have about a 3-inch, 2.5-inch group. So not bad at like 12 yards. PSA Dagger with the $120 optic with a crazy reticle. Let me see if we can get this thing in. So there's the reticle. The thing is with this Swampfox reticle is it's not exactly crisp and it's really big. So the ring is actually really thick and it kind of muddies up your sight picture. So when you're way out there at 12 yards, that ring is way thicker than the center dot in the center. It's almost like the ring is like 6 MOA, 5 MOA wide, and the dot's only 3, so it really overpowers your sight picture. So that's kind of a knock. For newer shooters, it makes it easier to see because it's really thick and also really large at like 65 MOA around, I think they said it is. So it's an interesting optic, not great for getting precise shots. If you really want precise shots, you don't really want that ring around. The ring is just more for quick acquisition. You know, you're at like 5 yards and you just want to hit like someplace in here, then this ring and dot is actually really good. See how the Kingslayer's optic and that big ass reticle works for me when I'm firing a little quicker. Alright, so that's 7 yards. Let's see how we did. Alright, had one high left. Looks like they're all pretty good though for firing that fast. I mean, see, like I said when I was shooting that group, that big circle dot really helps you. You just kind of get put the circle around what you're trying to hit and you're gonna hit someplace right there. Like I said, I think you'd do better than this if you have just the dot. I think the circle dot, this is what you're gonna get with the circle dot, is you just see a circle basically. So this is what you're looking at, which is actually really good. You know, you're firing that fast at 7 yards, you're gonna hit like just a 3-inch group, 2-inch group vertically. You know, that's pretty decent, I would say. And I would 100% recommend this gun over a Glock. 100%, there is no question about it. If somebody came to me and asked which one should I buy, a Gen 5 Glock or this gun, I'm going to suggest they buy this gun. The only question when it comes to between those two is, why the heck didn't you just buy an FN 509 or a PDP or a P10C? But that's neither here nor there. If you wanted some sort of gun with Glock internals, which actually has a useful philosophy of use, seeing as those parts are very easy to come by, everybody makes them. It's kind of like the internals of an AR-15. You know, tons of people make the AR-15. That's kind of what Glock internals are becoming. And these guns that are Glock clones, which aren't Glock clones, but they have Glock internals, are very easy to fix and get parts for because they have the same internals. Unfortunately, those internals are not always the best, and they have their limitations, like when it comes to quality of the slide release or quality of the trigger. There are just design limitations in that engineering. So we're gonna go over that right now. I've showed you some footage of how well this thing shoots. A lot of that is the optic though. So the shooting footage doesn't necessarily portray what this gun is capable of. Giving a different optic reticle and maybe a better optic, or even just one of these with just the dot, I could probably squeeze out better. But the trigger itself also affects the accuracy of this gun when you're trying to shoot slow and accurate strings of fire, obviously. So you have a very, very comfortable trigger shoe. I will always harp on that on any of my reviews. If your gun hurts to shoot or it's annoying to shoot, like for instance an actual Glock, how the trigger shoe safety doesn't depress all the way flat into the trigger, and you have this defined sharp nub pressing into the tip of your finger the entire time you're shooting. You can only shoot a couple hundred rounds of a Glock until like the tip of your finger is actually getting sore and shit from that stupid nub digging into it. And if you have a comfortable gun to shoot, you will shoot it vastly better. You'll shoot it more often because now you're not worrying about discomfort. You're just worrying about your form, your technique, your trigger press, the brake, stuff like that, recoil control. Like, you're worried about controlling the firearm and not about extraneous factors that don't matter and shouldn't matter. So kudos to them for making a nice, wide, comfortable trigger shoe. It is an articulating trigger safety, which you do not feel at all. You don't even feel it move back. It's very smooth and very effective way to do this. Now you come back and you have a perceived wall, but as with all Glocks, due to their drop safety, the actual firing pin and sear are like half cocked. And then as you pull back, the entire sear assembly comes back a little bit, which is why they're called double action. It starts to come back, and then it pulls the firing pin back with it until it finally goes down, releases the firing pin, and it breaks. So as you saw here, you have that travel, and you can feel that travel, and that is just a design limitation in the Glock engineering that makes it so your trigger can never be like super crisp. And you can just get used to it. It's not a huge deal. Plenty of people are very accurate with Glocks, and that is just a side effect of their design. They did their best, and it's pretty decent. I got decent accuracy out of it, and that's all you can ask for in a $480 gun. However, the slide stop slide release actually performs much better on this than it does a Glock. For some reason, it sticks out pretty far. I don't know if that's just inherent in their design or just their ergonomics of their grip, which they greatly improved to match the TX22. Just made it so it did stick out further, but it sticks out much further, and it's super easy to depress and release the slide. It works fantastic. I would not change this at all. It doesn't need an extended one. It just, like, nice light touch, and it goes right into action. It's fantastic. Now, the only thing I really don't like about this entire setup would be the Kingslayer itself and the reticle and the mag release on this gun. The mag button is fine. It's kind of like sharp and thin, but that's just because it's playing off the Gen 3 Glocks. But it is extended. The problem is that the actual spring is extremely tight. You can see my thumb. I haven't even moved it yet. Now I'm moving it yet. You can see the white while I'm depressing the mag release. So like not moving it, now it's starting to move, and now it's in. Like, it's a very, very strong spring. It's actually way too strong. This spring should be probably half the tension that it is. I don't know if this particular one got some crazy spring, if that's indicative of their design, or yeah, if this is just my gun. That is literally my only gripe with the PSA Dagger. Other than that, like I said, the optic itself, you can't see the reticle. I showed it in the range footage though. Now, the ring is way thicker than the dot. in the center. The dot in the center is like 3 MOA, and the actual thickness of the ring is probably like 5 or 6. It's much thicker than the dot. And when you bring this optic up quickly, all you really see is the ring. The dot just kind of fades away because it's getting overpowered by that thick, defined ring. And if you look for it and you take a second to look for it, you can clearly see the dot, and it's not that bad. But like, if you're shooting quickly, you literally just see the ring. And then even at distance, the ring just overpowers it, and it makes it harder to concentrate on the dot. That's a preference thing. This thing does come with just like an option to have a dot, and the Liberty and Justice both come with just a dot, and so does the Sentinel. So like, this isn't like a knock on their optic design. Generally, that's just this particular reticle option of the green circle and dot. Other than that, man, this thing is just awesome. For $480, I would recommend this to anybody, honestly, for any reason. If you just want a cheap budget option, I do a lot of training, so this is going to be my training gun. I'm just going to give this to people when they want to rent a gun from me. I'm just going to give this to them, and they can practice with an optic that's quite effective, that's good for beginners. That's why I bought this reticle, this optic. And you have a cheap gun, so it doesn't matter if you fuck it up. So you could just like throw this in a toolbox. You can beat it up. This can be totally your beater gun, and it still looks awesome. It functions awesome. This can just be like a go-to firearm for you. I had 0 malfunctions. I didn't even lubricate this thing. It's just ran fantastic. It shot fantastic. You saw the groups just like first time shooting it, going out, playing with it. Trigger's fine, optic's fine. It's just a great setup, and you're not set back any money at all compared to like if you wanted to buy a $600 PDDP and then a $400 RMR. You know, you can buy 2 of these for that price. So that's pretty intense when you take into consideration that you're getting a pretty decent package. The other really cool thing about the PSA Dagger is you can literally build these things like Legos for men in the PSA shop, because that's what I did. I wanted the custom cut slide with the RMR footprint, with the 1/3 co-witness, blacked out sights, and I wanted a non-threaded barrel. Now they didn't offer that particular package for like as a whole, so I bought the parts independently, which is just like crazy awesome. You can buy this frame for just 99 bucks, guys. Then you can buy the barrel separately, and then you can buy the slide separately, and then you can buy the recoil spring. And then all of that, you just put together whatever gun that you feel like having. The only downside to that is that you don't have a magazine. It doesn't come with a magazine that way. But, I mean, magazines are like, what, like 11 bucks for this thing? So, you know, it's irrelevant. And only PSA offers anything like that. You can't go on H&K's website and get a particular slide with a particular lower and, you know, particular barrel and stuff like that. This is a very cool, unique feature of PSA and their Dagger.